Hello and welcome to Planet Poetry. I'm Robin Houghton. Now today we're revisiting one of the most popular episodes from our fourth season. When Paul Stephenson's partner died suddenly, his life changed utterly. The result, sometime later, became Paul's first full collection, Hard Drive, published by Carcanet. Hard Drive was subsequently shortlisted for the Polari Prize. So here's my interview with Paul from February 2024, in which he talks about the book and reads some of the poems. Paul Stephenson studied modern languages and linguistics and has an MA in creative writing from the Manchester Writing School. He's published 3 pamphlets: Those People, Smith Doorstop 2015, which won the Poetry Business Pamphlet Competition, The Days That Followed Paris from Happenstance in 2016, and Selfie with Water Lilies from Paper Swans Press in 2017. In 2018, he co-edited the Europe issue of Magma, and currently he's the co-curator of Poetry in Aldborough. He is a university teacher and researcher and lives between Cambridge and Brussels. His debut collection, Hard Drive, was published by Carcanet in 2023. Paul Stephenson, welcome to Planet Poetry.
Morning, Robin. Great to be here.
And tell us, where are you speaking to us from?
I'm sitting at home today in my apartment in Brussels.
Are you based there all the time, or you sort of flit to and fro with the UK?
I flit back and forth between Brussels, London and Cambridge. I was in London just on Wednesday for a poetry reading at the Betsy Trotwood.
A classic venue, isn't it? Very poetry friendly. So this morning we are here to talk about your latest book, your first full collection. I was surprised to hear it was your first collection, but this is it, from Carcanet, Hard Drive. It's a big book, isn't it? 120 pages. And I just have to say that I read it from front to back in one sitting, which is highly unusual for me. I think the last time that happened was Ilya Kaminsky's Deaf Republic. So what I'd like you to do is perhaps read the opening poem, Anglepoise.
Anglepoise. You'll be in the front room at your computer, surrounded by your family of Anglepoise lamps. The novel will be making steady progress. I'll be in the kitchen with my laptop and radio, editing some poem or other, devoting an hour to the question of a comma, semicolon, full stop. Voices will drift up to me from where you are. My drama will drift down the hallway to you. There'll be hot radiators and rugs, curtains drawn. We'll both be home, absorbed in our projects, each working our way through the bottle of red. I'll be alive, you'll be alive. It'll be like old times.
This feels like the perfect opener. Even from the title, Anglepoise, we have this sense of something beautiful and classic and functional, and it endures forever. And even the word poise in the title, we're poised for something to happen. That's what it feels like. And we have this last 2 lines, which feels like a punch. You know, something is going to happen, and this beautiful, idyllic scene is going to be fractured. And I love the way that there are details in here that come through the book later on. We hear more about the rug, or being in the kitchen and editing and being one end of the flat to the other. So it's a beautiful precursor to what's to come, isn't it? Because this book is in fact about the untimely death of your partner, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a preface poem that kind of encapsulates the whole book. It sets up what's to come. I did actually consider calling the book Anglepoise, but in the end I thought Hard Drive was had many more interpretations, and perhaps the word Anglepoise was in itself a little too poetic.
So we're set up for this sequence of poems. I noticed that it's in, is it 5 or 6 sections, which seem to follow this, the Kubler-Ross grief curve from anger and denial through to acceptance. Is that too obvious to mention that?
Well, it's really interesting that you mention it. I mean, I wasn't aware of what I was doing, but perhaps implicitly, subconsciously, I have, covered all of these stages of grief and bereavement throughout the book. Not necessarily in that order, but certainly the first 3 of the 6 sections operates in a sort of linear manner.
Yeah.
Dealing with the practicalities of bereavement, the rituals, the performances, the things you have to do.
Yeah.
And reads very much like a novel, I think, in poems.
Yes, yes.
And towards the end of the book, certainly I've moved from anger, there is certainly some angry poems, and denial.
Yeah.
Towards acceptance.
So the first section, as you mentioned, is dealing with the stuff that has to be done. And I think anyone who has been through these stages, they're instantly recognisable. You don't really say that this person died. It's kind of, we have this tiny 3-line poem which refers to it obliquely, and then we're in the chapel of rest to see him. And I wondered if you might read one of the early poems which covers this episode. I tell him about the people.
I tell him about the people who have been in touch, about his parents, my brother, Mum and Tom, the friends we've not seen in years, the ones we spent good times with, drinking and laughing, gallivanting. I want him to hear how we've been in contact, keen for him to know they're all thinking of him. I need him to learn, one by one, the long list of our life, of all those who love him. In a hushed tone, speaking softly, sorry for my silly embarrassment, paranoid in case someone's there, a mortuary worker listening from behind the curtained backdrop. I stand in the low-ceilinged room and force myself, try to keep it casual, muster words to fill the quiet. I run out of names, exhaust the list, resort to love and apologies.
There's this sense of almost comforting a child, in a hushed tone, isn't there? Speaking softly and sorry for my embarrassment. And I love this word gallivanting. I mean, is that kind of a tiny clue as to what's to come? There's a lot of playfulness in the book, isn't there?
Particularly in the second half of the book, when I go back to revisit the relationship, the first encounter, falling in love, lots of travel, getting up to hijinks, holidays together.
Hence the gallivanting, quite literally, I suppose. I like the way that the poems almost turn surreal in this first section. There's this poem, isn't there, where you're imagining Todd opening his eyes and looking at you, or you're even imagining being on a sort of a TV set. It becomes a game show, and everything is just crazy. That was, I thought, an inspired way of describing perhaps that sense of it not being real.
Yeah, it's the disbelief, trying to capture the complete disbelief of the situation. And it did feel like a theatre stage, seeing a body lying there on display, and thought, is this candid camera?
Yeah.
Is this really happening?
Yeah.
I wrote that poem, the 2 poems actually, Not Dead and Masterpiece Theatre. They were one poem originally, and I wrote the poem actually on a poetry school course with Will Harris, where we were asked to tell a lie. So I thought, what's the biggest lie I can tell?
Oh gosh, that's interesting. Huh. This all happened in 2016. I wanted to ask you whether it takes a while for you to process events in order to write about them.
Yeah, I don't think these poems emerged immediately afterwards, probably a couple of years later. I think we're all doing a lot of writing in our head, aren't we, and processing, and the poems are sort of marinating, perhaps, before we actually write them.
Yes. So you didn't write these poems straight after these of this, like 5 years of work? Or
6 years of work and 1 year of production and editing, yeah.
I wondered if you could read a prayer for death admin for us, please.
A prayer for death admin. For the message received to establish contact and being the designated representative. For the formal letter of authorization and acting on behalf in matters regarding. For the ample information to take on board and the tissue samples to be carefully taken approximately the size of a thumbnail, for the detailed microscope examination. For the offer of assistance with all legalities and the certified copies for permanent filing. For the order form attached to be completed and the 10 copies, but more if requested. For the confirmation of cancelled subscription and the £40 refunded to a credit card. For the stop to collection activity on the account and the number to please quote in all correspondence. For the utility companies, E.ON, EDF, First Utility, and their written request for meter readings. For their final statements of accurate usage and music played on hold with Virgin Media. For the clearing of contents, bulk waste collection, and the end of tenancy move-out cleaning. For the follow-up note that card transactions will appear on your bank statement as fantastic services. For the automated replies to emails received successfully and passed on to the appropriate council department, for the aim to make things as smooth as possible for you, and the paid-up start date for postal redirection. For the message entitled Death of a Library User and the titles of the 6 books currently issued. For the overdue fines waived, no further fees accruing, and the reassurance not to worry if you can't locate them.
Yeah, it just about sums up all the dreadful, death admin, quite. And you call it a prayer, and it's written in this kind of list format, but it's actually in quatrains, isn't it? This whole book kind of fizzes with form or wizardry. I just wanted to ask you how much you enjoy working with form, and is this something you've always done? Does form come naturally, or do you have to spend a lot of time thinking, this is the wrong form for this poem?
Yeah, I love experimenting with form and obviously being as playful as possible and trying to vary things for me and for the reader. You know, what is the potential of the page? What can a poem look like? Can we find forms that we've never seen before? I really wanted, of course, every poem for the reader to renegotiate their emotional response to the poem, which is why there is a mix of very serious poems and sincere poems, and a mix of absurd and surreal poems. And I think varying the form as well also helps with that and sort of, keeps the reader on their toes.
I wondered if you might read The Button. I think it's a great example of how you're able to employ humour and also be intensely moving, the obsessing over a detail.
The Button. Michael appeared just as he said he would. He issued hushed words with a soft Irish accent, his demeanour tidy, calm, professional, familiar. We had to get going. Someone was after us, so it couldn't run over. Michael just wanted to talk through a few last details, including the button. The button, there next to the wooden lectern. He guided me over. Would you like me to take care of it? Or when we got to the final song, would I be up to it? Could I bring myself to take care of the button? He'd be on hand, standing at the rear of the chapel. Looking back, I don't know how I pushed it, or if he said to push or press or what verb, if the button was green like green for go, green as the pool table lawn, or red as the brick arches and spent roses, or was it black? Why did I push it? Push because I was a crazed control freak, that July Tuesday, me playing at Master of Ceremonies? Or was it out of duty? The button, I mean. For it was silly, like an Amtram prop. Though the button was small, it was also violent. I know I shouldn't have been allowed to make a person disappear with such a tiny weapon. Oh, it was horrid in its automation, melodramatic and almost camp. Yes, that's it. It was camp. Vulgar and hammed up, a tasteless step, banal, extravagant. Which was apt, in an affected sort of way, because T would likely have pressed it himself, acting out a theatrical ruse. It's just, if nobody had pushed the button, the huge curtain wouldn't have wrapped round, and I'd never have caught a corner glance of the doors parting, letting in a sharp slit of white light as he was taken. He'd have lain there, in situ, our modest gathering filing out into the midday sunshine, and I'd be even more a mess, knowing I'd not sent him off completely. Beneath that bed of summer flowers I flung on as they carried him in, a meadow all orange, purple, all yellow.
These are 8-line stanzas, aren't they? So the central of the 4 is the one where you crescendo into this absurd point, and then you come down again in the final section of the poem. I thought it was brilliant. Why did I push it? It almost goes back to the question of why. Why did it happen in the first place, which comes up through the book, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure all crematoria have buttons, but this one in Golders Green certainly did. It was rather old-fashioned, I imagine. I just remember buying this beautiful bouquet of flowers from this florist in Highgate, and then thinking I'm going to, lay this very intricate blanket of flowers on the coffin.
Yeah.
And of course, in the moment, it all happens so quickly. Oh. And you have no choice but to just fling the flowers on.
And we're left with the colours of the flowers and orange. Actually, orange, purple and yellow, those colours come up again. These are some of the little details that I really enjoyed.
They do, and this is a poem actually that appeared in Poetry Wales, and Jonathan Edwards was so attentive with this poem as an editor. He insisted on that second appearance of the word all at the end of the poem, which I think, all orange, purple, all yellow.
All yellow, yes. Gosh, isn't it good to have an editor who pays that much attention and pulling out every possible nuance? I noticed also that you use these names through the book. I made a note of some of them. Carol and Jade at Storage Kingdom, and Sarah, who leaves a voicemail that seems to go on ad infinitum. And yet we get very few names of family members or friends, whereas these should be anonymous people get their names.
Yeah.
But on the subject of names, there are 2 poems on Todd's name, aren't there? First of all, your name, and then later on, namesake. So interested that you gave his name 2 different treatments, if you like. Do you want to tell us anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, with the first one, I was exploring the multiple meanings of the word Todd, obviously death in German, but which words contain the words TOD in other languages as well? Obviously, the poem ends also with todos and todas and Spanish. I veer from English and Old Scottish, whatever, to Dutch, to other languages to see where Todd appears. Of course, I see him every day when I have so many thumbnails open on my laptop and I listen to the Today programme. And of course, that gets reduced down on a thumbnail to TOD.
Oh, no. Oh, gosh.
He's always there.
Yeah.
Always there on my laptop.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a sort of exploration of seeing how deep I could mine the name. And then with namesake, I found this text in PN Review by Nicholas Tredell on Todorov, on the Bulgarian philosopher and fiction writer. And I thought perhaps I can further explore Todd through negation by saying who he wasn't.
Yes.
Yes. So used somebody else's biography to say this wasn't Todd.
Very clever.
And eventually, I think I sort of slightly switched towards the end of the poem, towards the affirmative, and saying, no, Todd was this, Todd was this.
Yeah.
Todorov might have been this, but Todd was this. It's a bit like an erasure in a way, as a formal technique, I suppose. I certainly have found, using somebody else's text as the starting point.
The next poem I was going to ask you to read was the title poem, Hard Drive. It seems to come at a time where, having gone through the period of finding homes for Todd's possessions, putting stuff into storage, and a lot of mention of things, if you like, suddenly the physical things seem to become less important.
Hard drive. Our life is out there, somewhere, on a hard drive, someplace, dark and silent, deep inside. We are saved, we are stored, all we were, us recorded, for the time being ignored. Our love is out there somewhere, love that drove us someplace we didn't know, we hadn't been, safe and secure behind closed doors. All the files in all the folders, switched off, put away. I'll get a man to locate our life, to retrieve our life, our love, and transfer it, so I can relive it someday, our life of years, all the days, sitting there, unlooked at, us collected.
Us collected, yes. I have to mention again the form of this. There are 2 columns, each of 3 stanzas of 6 lines. So it's got a very square, neat, organised look, like it's a box. It's a box of boxes. Everything's stored. And interestingly, it can be read differently, can't it? You know, one column and then the next column, which gives another kind of nuance to the whole thing.
Yeah, you can read it. You can read it down, or you can read it across. Yeah,
but also being the title poem, it feels like there's some kind of linchpin-esque feel to it.
Yeah, so Hard Drive is the title of the book. Hard drive, in this instance, obviously, most obviously refers to computer hard drives, where we keep our files, our photos, our videos, our text files. But hard drive itself, I think, has other meanings. The hard drives that I had to do, being chauffeured to the crematorium, to the mortuary.
Yeah.
I think the whole journey of bereavement is a hard drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even a long-term relationship, the cohabitation, the working hard at something.
It's quite interesting the way that we talk about the cloud as well. I know that's off-piste, but, we assume stuff in the cloud and, where is this blooming cloud?
There is a poem that didn't make it into the book, actually, it's called BC.
Before the cloud.
Before clouds, before clouds. It's published in the Fendon Poetry Journal recently, actually, but didn't put that poem in the book. But yeah, Before Clouds.
You mentioned earlier about a poem that was almost an erasure poem, and we've talked about form, and we've got everything from sonnets to backslashes and lacunae, and there's a couple of poems where you substitute one word for another. I have seen this before. The poem Enter the Gyre, you substitute the word plastic for grief, I think. That's how I read it. Is there a word for that technique where you substitute one word for another in a poem?
I have absolutely no idea. But I found this wonderful text, all about the accumulation of plastics in the ocean. And I thought that's a fantastic metaphor for grief. So I'll try to work with that kind of technical language. I mean, I had to make other changes to the text. But,
yes. Well, I think you need to give it a name.
I'd previously done that in my, I have a poem called Death Flake.
Yes.
Where I play with both the words death and snow. I interchange them. In my pamphlet, I think, in Selfie for Water Lilies.
I think I've seen that. So maybe it's your poems I've seen before that have used this technique. So maybe it is yours and you need to give it a name.
Okay.
One of my favourites is The Hymn of Him, which it's 14 lines and not only formal in its metre and rhyme and its look on the page, but it's got this amazing onomatopoeic sound patterning. And I wondered if you would read this for us, please.
The hymn of him. The ap of him, the bop of him, the cap, the cop of him, the cup of him, the dip, the fop of him, the gap of him, the hip, the hop of him, the jip of him, the lap, the lip of him, the map of him, the mop, the nap of him, the nip of him, the pep, the pip of him, the pup of him, the quip, the rap of him, the rep of him, the rip, the sap of him, the sip of him, the sup, the tap of him, the tip of him, the top, the VIP of him, the whip of him, the yap, the yep of him, the zap of him, the zip, the ship of him, the shop of him, the shut up, the chap of him, the chip of him, the chop.
Isn't that wonderful? Listeners, dear listeners, isn't that wonderful? Actually, seeing it on the page while you're reading it is also obviously adds to the enjoyment of it. I read it a couple of times. I thought, oh, this is clever. You know, all these repeated sounds, and then I realised it's an A to Z. It goes from app through bop through cap right down to the zip, and that gave another level of joy to the reading of it. And I guess that's what it's meant to be, is it not? Expressing the joyousness of this person. It
is, and trying to find meaning in some of those small words where you wouldn't necessarily think you can make an association. You know, the app of him.
Yes.
If only there were an app. You can find your own meanings there. I think always choose sound over meaning. You know.
Interesting.
We'll make our own.
Readers make their own meanings. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think this is an example of a poem where, constraint is so useful,
Yes.
to give yourself a constraint and to use a device. And then you can be surprised as a writer, I think. And that using constraint, just using these little 3-letter words, going through the dictionary, creating a word field, and it has a song-like quality as an effect.
I might be at a workshop where they say something like, be inspired by this, use constraints, whatever. And then I might sort of feel, it feels contrived. I'm trying to fit things into a certain box. Is that something that you think we shouldn't worry too much about? Just trust your instincts and just try it. And I don't know what the answer is to that.
I mean, sometimes, the poem can feel like a kind of exercice de style, where we've gone through the motions. And you can see the scaffolding.
Yes.
And there may be no emotional heart to the poem. It's a useful exercise. And that's okay, isn't it, for some poems to just fall flat, to be experiments. But occasionally, one will work.
You've mentioned that come sections 4 and 5 are more about your life with Todd and your travels and the things you used to do. Then we all have those moments when, when you've lost someone, a long time later, something pops into your head and, and it sort of brings it back or whatever. There was a poem that comes in that section called I Can Be Happily. So perhaps you'd read it for us now.
I could be happily engrossed in some, have my head stuck in, looking out at noticing the new, admiring the curve of fixed on the weigher, lost in the recent and oblivious too. I can be enjoying a quiet, browsing the latest, choosing between or flicking through, taking in all the catching up on my, touching base with, planning and overdue. I can be peering over at, preparing a small, getting ready for, in the queue, looking forward to when suddenly I, out of nowhere, picture you.
Very beautiful. Thank you. Now, towards the end of the book, there are quite a few, I think you might have mentioned it already, there's quite a few quite angry poems that come in here. And there's one poem when you bring your own name into it, Grief as the Preamble of the Maastricht Treaty. And it's just this amazing, it really does read like a formal treaty with all the capital letters and all the titles laid out. And it's unreadable out loud, I would imagine, really. To get the full effect, you have to see it written down. Yeah,
it's a poem that I'm trying to capture the complete self-indulgence, actually, of grief, because it's very me, an egocentric kind of process, really, isn't it? An experience. And here I am, the Minister for Sadness. I'm also the Minister for Wallowing, the Minister for Excessive Drinking, the Minister for Sleeping In, the Minister for Storage Units. Yeah, it's me. I thought
it was a marvellous way of coming towards the end of the book, although we do finish with a final poem. And I thought it was a wonderful way to end the collection.
Yeah, this is a postscript poem, actually, a poem where I finished the manuscript and I thought I'll end with Grief as the Preamble of the Maastricht Treaty and then have a couple of blank pages. I mean, that's the book done. And then for there to just be this quieter, small surprise poem at the end of the book.
Yeah, lovely.
And I remember writing the poem, and as I was writing it, it was that whole physical experience of the poem happening. It was an exciting feeling, a very physical, sensory experience of having writing by hand a poem. And I kind of knew in the moment, I thought, this is the last poem. This is the last poem. Because it was written quite a few months sort of after really considering that the manuscript was done. And I'd gone down to the middle of rural France to go to the wedding of one of Todd's very good friends. So I was kind of there on his behalf, really.
Yeah.
And I stayed found this gorgeous bed and breakfast, and I was the only guest. Wedding in Limousin. I'm writing this in the swimming pool. In a swimming pool in which I am the only swimmer. I've stopped swimming to write this poem, here alone, just arrived, my first swim. 3 trains and a taxi, 38 degrees, a June heat wave. Standing here, cooling off, the robot cleaning underwater, almost company. A pen is letting out its ink, a notebook covered in wet patches from my wet arm, right hand. Blotched words. Sun hot on my back, the blanks of paper wrinkling into waves. France, sound of a tractor, and a moment ago church bells, a breeze, honeysuckle. All this way. I've come to represent you, but I'm also here for me. Hey, a swallow just skimmed the pool, was off again, 6th in a row. A swallow for each year you've been gone. It's time to swim.
Gorgeous. Time to swim, time to let go, time to push off and get on with it. And there's one lovely little kind of Easter egg in there that I noticed, 38 degrees. 38, the age that Todd was. And we've had one poem, other people that died age 38, haven't we? So the number has come up again right at the end.
And it was in June again, yeah.
In June. Well, this is a marvellous book, Paul. Congratulations. It's already into its first reprint, isn't it? So I think it's going to do very well. I shall listen out next year and just see.
Well, thank you so much, Robin. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you today and be part of your Planet Poetry podcast series.
Thanks for coming on again.
Thank you.
So that's it for another archive episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Peter and I will be back very soon with our final all-new episode of Season 6 featuring Will Harris. So do listen out for that one. Thanks for supporting Planet Poetry by listening. Thank you for your donations. Remember, you can always show your appreciation at buymeacoffee.com/planetpoetry. And we hope to have you along with us again soon. Thank you.